Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Hopefully, the internet will work with us tonight. I had a show. Let's see. On Tuesday it went well. So hopefully we have good luck tonight. Let me know in chat if it doesn't, and if you do lose me for a minute, I'll be right back. Because, like I said, until we figure out what's going on with this internet system and this Google machine, that may happen. For all of you out there that this is your first time coming into the Morning Watch, we thank you for being here. We appreciate your support, and we'll be, as always, there's just a short presentation on our Morning Watch show, and after which I go through chat, answer all the questions I can, and we'll discuss anything you want, and we'll be looking at the Stephen Smith reclassification tonight and be discussing about the next shows that will be coming up as far as we've started looking at the homicide, which just by chance, I came out and with my thumbnail that was stating that we was going to open an investigation, and same night as we was doing that, I was notified that they had changed the classification, which is long overdue. I'm glad it's there. I'm glad that we've reached this point. And what issues will this create now that it's been changed? And we'll see what's going on. But let's see who's in chat right quick before we get started. Come down through here. QS, good to see you. What the Beck, I love that. Good to see you. Eileen, good. There's Dave, he's in here. And as always, Dave has the Waffle House on his mind. And Miranda, Grace. And Grace says that the funds that have been are up to 97,000. So probably by now it's hit 6 digits. Absolutely amazing. Burnt popcorn. I love it. Thuza, good to see you. Liley, Madison, JJ, Andrea, Thuza again. Let's see, Jennifer. Glad you're here. Oh, we need Jennifer here. She keeps everything going smoothly. Pigeon Mac, thank you. Hopefully everything does stay well with the computer tonight. Jill. Oh, me. Hi, Mr. Steve. This is Kay. She says, I'm back with Jackson. And Finley, Jackson keeps saying, hi, Mr. Steve, and waving. Hey, what you doing, Jackson? That's my 2.5-year-old. He has autism, and he's more excited to watch than I am. Well, I'm absolutely, you made my day, and I'm glad he's here, and I hope he enjoys it. And let's see here. Grumpy Cat. Good to see you. Jennifer, a show to get knowledge of crimes and fat from food talking. I tell you, catatonic. Yeah. Let's see here. What else we got? Let's try to get caught up before I get into this. Kowalski, I'm glad to see you. Let's see here. Thank you, Catatonics, for mentioning the likes. Some way or another that helps the channel. That's what I've heard, and I keep repeating it. WL22, good to see you. Okay. Let's see. Dave said on the Richard Allen gun, does it have an exterior serial number? Most of them do. I think it was a Glock. If it is, it has one. But anyway, we'll get into the presentation right quick and get that out of the way, and then we'll start talking about some investigative stuff. Yes, Jennifer, we're excellent. Thank you. And Mrs. Steve is her hand is recovering well, and I talked to her tonight and told her that we may be recreating the Paltrow ski accident, and I'll be the guy that runs into her with the bag of ice. We was going on at Chris's show about that. But anyway, Stephen Smith, of course, is the individual who lost his life on that road and in South Carolina, and on July 8th, 2015. And so we're going to be looking at that case. The mother's fought hard for him for these last 8 years, Sandy, and she is requesting that they exhume his body and by outside or third party, so that it won't be any linkage to any of the prior investigations or anything, and their attorneys will handpick all the investigators and all the scientists and the qualified medical professionals to be able to look at this and see what they can do and see if it can bring and generate new leads and interest in this case. It has all the interest in in the world for the fact that the we look at it that from the Murdoch homicide, this is one of the good things that that has evolved off of that terrible crime that occurred with Maggie and Paul. That the interest in this other homicide, regardless if it's linked or not to the Murdochs, is what is one of the things that brought focus to this case. And we'll be in some of the future shows be talking about if there is any linkage into it. I just don't, as we create and move forward, there's certain things as far as the investigative part of it. I've been thankful that I have so many people out there that in my community, they've been sending me information, which makes my research so much easier because it's so hard, like I said, going into something I only became aware of. I knew the name, but I didn't know anything about the case up until a couple of days ago. But now with the research and stuff moving forward, it'd be far easier. But anyway, Sandy Smith has been the one that has been fighting to get focus on this case over these 8 years. And during the Murdoch investigation, and I believe it was 2021 is when they started reopening and looking at, and through 2022, and it took it all the way up to now, regardless of what was going on this last couple of years, even during the Murdoch investigation and trial, that now is when it's gained the momentum, and SLED is being put under the microscope, and they have changed their views, and which is great. That's what has to happen. That when you reopen the case and look at it, and regardless of where the pressures came from, I don't care. We have reached a place that will most definitely bring some results and hopefully justice this case. Because looking at it from the surface, talking about a 19-year-old man and dying in such a manner on a lonely road in the middle of the night, and having law enforcement arguing that no, this isn't a traffic accident, and trying to get it a point across and just running into a brick wall is crazy. And why did that occur? And I'm sure that will be answered at some point, and I look forward to that answer. But anyway, with this letter, it's basically just saying that, hey, we agree with you now. You know, you can read through it, and I could take up 5-10 minutes of time and tell you that that SLED has said, okay, no longer do we look at as just a traffic accident. It is now what we are considering a suspicious death, homicide, and we're going to be looking at it as a homicide. And through that investigation, if it turns around and becomes something else, absolutely fine. But there's so much evidence within this case that says, no, it's not a traffic accident. And so if it's not a traffic accident, and those injuries that occurred have to occur in some manner, it's not injuries that you can self-inflict. And so if it's not self-inflicted, then that only leaves up the other homicides. But even the attorneys, they're overwhelmed and absolutely rejoicing that they've been contacted and that the chief of SLED has told them that it is now considered a homicide. And what has been lost in those 8 years? Where are the witnesses that have moved away that possibly would have been able to be interviewed in a more intense and focused manner? People have passed in 8 years. Would some of those people might have remembered something? And that's the problem when cases get sidelined. That after 8 years, there's going to be people that are no longer around, moved, memory has faded, or they've passed. And so that will create problems in and of itself. Now, the people that moved away, they'll hopefully be able to track them down. But there's a lot of things that they're going to have to do to correct the issues. But like I said, all this here is the announcement coming. And if you want to read it, just go back and rewatch this, and you'll be able to read each of the pages I have there. And then we have where they talk about the injuries sustained. There was a list put out, and I pulled it off of one of the sites. And they talk about everything from the brainstem, cerebral contusions, extensive skull fractures. And that is something of great interest when you have extensive skull fractures. You got scalp hemorrhaging, which any type of, if you're going to have extensive skull fractures, you're going to have some scalp hemorrhaging. Been there, seen it, and both ways. But and the right forehead laceration, and the thing when you say laceration, some people jump that it's absolutely that it's a cut. When skin, especially around the skull, is hit with any type of blunt force and sustains blunt trauma, it'll appear almost like it's been cut with a knife. When you lay someone's head open, you hit them hard. You can even do it with your fist. You can break that skin and it'll split the skull. Or if you do a headbutt, absolutely you'll do it. What other type of issues that he sustained? This is still the early part for me, and I don't know if we'll ever be able to see and obtain that information, especially from the perspective of the creators. And he has irregular abrasions and contusions on his right and left arms, and right shoulder dislocation. And I've had my left shoulder dislocated in a fight. And there's nothing fun about having a shoulder dislocated. You get taken into an arm bar, and when they put the pressure on it and it pops out, it's not anything that's pleasant. And actually, the person that put my shoulder in that dislocated position suffered that scalp hemorrhaging and extensive skull fractures from a maglite. So, like I said, I've been in this situation. But fortunately, I was armed not only with my duty weapon, but also with a flashlight that I was able to survive that encounter, luckily. But has blood in the airways, which can get there from several different ways. And that will be something that hopefully the when they exhume, we will be able to learn more about that, because you can get that from some of the skull fractures, especially around the nasal cavities that go into the throat, that you may have the blood that's getting into the lungs and things. The head x-rays, they said no projectiles. And not only projectiles, but you'll have fragmentation of if it's lead or any type of jackets, and something with a gallbladder. And there's no toxicology on him, so it's negative. And let's see, that's pretty much that on that. So we will escape out of that, and I'll go to chat and catch up right quick. See if there's anybody that's been saying anything. Oh man, y'all fly around here on chat now. All right, get caught up here. Goodness. All right, here we go. Okie doke. Let's go down through here and see anything's going on in chat, and then we'll get talking about some notes I made about investigations as we move forward. But because we got everything that, you know, in our previous show, we talked about the first responding officers and what you start with as far as the investigations and trying to identify. But once you get the scene secure and you start identifying the individuals of the victim and trying to locate secondary crime scenes, because it's important, because if you get to a crime scene such as in the middle of the road and it doesn't fit and it appears to be staged, what else is staged and what other crime scenes exist? And so you have to go out there and find them. Jennifer Rochelle, no hitting Mrs. Steve. In the Paltrow case, it's the opposite, or the claim that Paltrow is the one that ran into him. So it'd be Mrs. Steve running over me with a pair of skis. Fuser, yes, Fuser says that I'm so glad that this case is finally being taken seriously. Absolutely, and it all came out of the Murdoch case. Oh, Bible Group says that the wind's blowing out there in Arizona. I got to get to Arizona. Catatonics, the way he was found is horrendous. Yeah, I saw some video today, watching it where it appears that, I don't know, it appears that some of the pictures have been, although they're blurred out, have been are out there, which is disturbing. Grace says, I feel he was put in the middle of the road. I agree. Far behind am I? Oh, I'm not too far. I'm not the 10 or 15 minutes I was last time. Jill Downey says, I am so glad you're recovering this, which, while we're here in chat, and I've got attention of a bunch of people here quickly. If any of you know anyone in the area of there, because I may be going over there. I talked to Mrs. Steve earlier, and I may be going over there in the next week or two, and just getting my feet wet and looking at some of the areas, because like I said, it's just a different perspective when you're there and you walk those streets and you walk that road and you talk to those neighbors and things. So I may be going over there. So if any of you know anyone in the area that absolutely could be a resource and a guide for a day or two, I would absolutely appreciate it. You can email me at steve@truecrimeweb.com. There are some very dark things. Kowalski says that in that part of South Carolina, it may look all great and wholesome, but there's a dark undercurrent, unfortunately. I hate to hear that, but I still like to go over there and see it and experience it, because there, like you said, you had a dynasty there that is uh, lost one of its key leaders. But what else is left of that dynasty? Um, but some of the other things that in the investigation that they're going to have to do as they move forward is building a timeline. I went out there to see if anyone has created a very extensive timeline, and I haven't found one that has all the details in it. Although I've got to go back and look at, I think someone sent me one or two timelines that has some information. And then, of course, I think the series that was on Netflix, there's some type of timeline in it, I think, or at least that's what some people told me. At time, 16-year-old kids walking around with guns. That's never good. And that's a good point. I wonder about the irregular abrasions and contusions of the right and left arms. I wonder if that indicates that he was restrained. Um, and that's, yes, what type of abrasions are they? And are they from rope restraints, some type of, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can create abrasions and contusions. And some of those, and it depends, um, and they can look at this and tell if they're um, pre-mortem or pre-death or post-mortem. And so, uh, which way is it? And so they'll be able to look at those, and hopefully they got good pictures of them. And part of that would be the report. They won't be able to look at them now, of course, unless there is some miraculous um, preservation of that area, which I doubt there is. You know, we're talking about 8 years. But if they photographed those areas, those contusions, and went in and um, uh, looked at them and opened them up and got some good uh, reports made on those types of injuries, they'll be able to tell, was the heart um, still pumping at that time. Let's see here. Oh, QS, thank you. I'm not the king, but I absolutely enjoy being here and talking to these. I have a great community. Appreciate y'all being here. Yeah, there's nothing pleasant about having a right shoulder dislocated, especially in a fight. Nothing pleasant about it all. Jennifer, what food are we eating tonight? Jennifer, you missed it. Dave and Pigeon Mac are trying to get me a Waffle House sign. So I don't know if I'm gonna put it up here or up at the up on the range or something. Um, Jessica Wiley says, sorry, it should only be called hit and run when you hit another vehicle. If you hit a person with a car and run, that person dies. That's homicide. And vehicular here in Georgia, we have the vehicular homicide, unless they've changed it to some other um, uh, politically correct term. Hold up here, maybe. I'm still behind, but only like 5 minutes behind, so that's working good. Um, would Stephen need to be declared manner of death homicide by medical examiner? Yes, generally. And I think there's some people making hay with that right now that, well, SLED doesn't have the ability to automatically declare it homicide. Regardless, in house, sometimes with law enforcement, we speak, but we're talking about what we're looking at and what we consider. Of course, the on the death certificate, it's going to have to be clarified what it is. Um, and you know, there's certain classifications. And will that be changed? Um, Probably so. Will they change it pre exhuming, or will they let the consensus of the new um, autopsy and everybody evaluating if there's new injuries discovered that are supportive of a traffic accident, then they will consider that. and that may be that vehicular type of homicide. But if they don't have that, because you're going to be able to see anyone that's worked fatalities involving pedestrians and vehicles, when you look at those lower extremities, and everything just depends on how tall the person is, but from the ribs down, um, that what happens, to your shins, your thigh bones, your hips, uh, um, your midsection, your ribs, a lot of things get broken. All right. Yeah, Jill, I think it's going to easily break 100,000, um, and they'll probably need more than that, because if they bring in an investigative team, you've got a lot of stuff that's going out there has to be everything on the logistics side of it, which I'm learning as I go to Texas, and that's just a small. We have a small team going there, but what the defense wants to do, as far as I'm sure they're going to do everything that law enforcement did or didn't do. And if they didn't do the victimology, and within that victimology, what risk factors did Stephen have? What was he doing that was of high risk? Being at 19, there's certain risks that he may have put himself in, and may not have. I don't know that much about that. Hadn't got that deep in it. Of course, there's rumors out there about certain things, which is still no reason for the cause his death. Um, and law enforcement will also be considering um, any type of his sexual preferences and otherwise of is that motive, um, and without the pictures to see how much damage was done to him, and was there any type of rage, or is it something that's more indicative of a strong arm robbery that went wrong? I mean, there can be a lot of different reasons of why an individual uh, can be injured and be the victim of a homicide, especially at those hours. You got people riding around that may be looking to do an armed robbery somewhere, and then they see this, um, um, isolated victim on a very isolated part of the county, and they just instantly rob. Not saying that's what happened, but that is something that law enforcement look at, trying to see is it some type of sexual motivation, or is it um, robbery, or is it a hate crime? And they would just absolutely have to go out there but the victimology will reveal some of that, and the manner of death. But they'll also, and I don't know, all this time, and I hope that with the traffic accident and as they went into it, that they did just like we saw with Kohlberger, do that neighborhood video canvassing, not only with the neighborhood, but at whatever stores, regardless, if there's only one gas station open within 10 miles, and wherever the banks are, or anywhere that you have stores that have security cameras, such as Walmart's and any of your big box stores that would have anything showing parking lots, what vehicles were out and about during those times, especially to rule out those criminals, because sometimes criminals branch out, that not only will they do robberies and burglaries, but they also do thefts and things, and um, that they have a wide resume. Yeah, the Grace says another one is the Gloria Satterfield. Absolutely. Hello, Dwayne's prospecting. Good to see you. Uh, uh, Dwayne says, let me know when you get ready to go to Arizona. I want the prospect out there. Um, and that may be closer than you think, because Chris is trying to contact, and there's a lot of people missing in Arizona. My goodness, unreal. Kathy Chaplin says that I wonder if some information came from Paul's phone, maybe some text that had critical information. And that is something that they will try to find out, because part of that victimology is they're going to be talking to those friends if he had any type of part-time job, and what was his normal routines of after class at night on certain days. What was his spending pattern? Had things changed? Because we're going to have to look at one of the greatest things that, or one of the biggest things that law enforcement always looks at: what type of relationships was he in? And I know there's been rumor that he was from the mother, so it's not really rumor, but that he was hinting at he was having some type of relationship with a very prominent individual, and that they were going to be making a trip, and that trip was in a certain area, and there's information that there's other people that was going to that certain area also. So are they linked? Don't know. Or is it a coincidence? Don't know. Because I've been all over the country, and I've been 6, 7, 800 miles from home, and look over there and see someone I know, and done it on more than one occasion. Just absolutely one of those things. So sometimes people do schedule you from being from the same area, in some of these areas, especially during July and those summer months, when everybody travels um, to whatever their local recreation areas are. Dave is still talking about that gun. Is it possible law has a serial number at the end of Libby's video? No, if they had that serial number, they would have tracked it down through the sales. Even regardless, yes, they would have tracked that down. If they had the serial number from day one, they would have tracked it. That's one thing that ATF is very good on. Kowalski says, "I'm near Charleston, Steve, about an hour away from where I live." Yeah, I really want to appreciate the offer, but I'm really looking for someone that has some knowledge of the case, and also of the area, because there's a lot of different things that you have to look at. JJ, I always wonder why the cops carry such big flashlights. Um, well, no, it wasn't even a year. About 2 months after that incident, my boss took up all the, which we all had the buy our own flashlights back then. Um, but after that, the government decided that they was going to issue us flashlights, and I may even have one up here. I do. And so we went from the big 4-cell flashlights um, to these. That was our new flashlight after that encounter, because we got sued over that. But you don't try to kill or harm an officer without expecting that there will be some retaliation. Um, and I don't plan on going down without a fight. Let's see here, but that's not really the only reason we carry them, because the 4-cell flashlights, those D cell, they last a long time, and you use a flashlight a lot at night in patrol. Let's see here. Your phone thinks it's smarter than you. I know my phone's smarter than me. Peanut butter and jelly. Oh my goodness. Dave says if it's near Myrtle Beach, he'll help. Grace, yes, it's a very obsession that easily a lot of people have on certain cases, and this is an interesting case. Charlene Brown, good to see you. Um, Catatonic says they are saying he was either hit with a side mirror or a bat. If it was a side mirror, and I've seen it, and there's glass everywhere, even that mirror glass, and it gets in not only on the road surface, but it gets in your clothing. If they still have those clothing and they're able to go in there and they see that glass fragmentation that's in the clothing, and that can be a critical clue that can lead the investigation in a certain direction. Don't know if that's there or not, and that's what, looking at pictures, you can't see anything of that right now. And but we got contusion. It's hard from a side mirror to create the head injury and contusions on both arms. We just don't know the extent of those and what does the bruising and contusions mean. There's a lot of different levels of that. Um, Jim Mitch, can you talk about what they will find when they exhume the body? Um, I know what they're going to be looking for, and the expectations of what they will do. It just depends on how well the funeral home was in doing their job, as far as the certain, you know, preservation techniques, embalming the body, and what part of the country you're in, and how uh, you know, did uh, was a vault required or just a casket? Because some parts of the country, you can be buried in just a simple wooden casket, and some parts, you have to be in those vaults and things. I don't know what the law is there. Don't know what type of elements he would have been exposed to, and so there's a lot of variance that can occur. But most certainly they'll have, at a minimum, a lot of the skeleton to look at and evaluate and X-ray. If they'll have any soft tissues, and all the other stuff has been collected. They A lot of the biological material they still have, and it's in some office, in the crime lab, or coroner's office, whoever maintains um, the the fluids of the and the slides and the uh, anything that they gather from that first autopsy of from kidneys, livers, whatever they created, they still have them somewhere. Where that is, I don't know in South Carolina. Ain't got no grammar. I'm about the same way. Grace says, questions, what is next? Do we wait for SLED and law enforcement to do their jobs? A waiting game now. I think somewhere in the SLED letter they talked about that, I, that they're on board with everything that's going on. I'm, and I don't know what that means as far as we still have to go through the courts, and uh, what will be the arguments, and who will do the actual or the new autopsy. And so we'll just have to see. But yes, it will be that there still has to be a court order to exhume the body. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Look at here. Don Burke, 499. Until evidence is proven, persons or people are innocent. I don't agree with this family did. How would you feel if this was your? Absolutely. I mean, regardless of what um, um, certain people's lifestyles are, um, um, I don't judge them. I'll let God take care of that, but I don't judge them. It's not my place to do that. And I was put in that position that I had to be non-biased. When you go to a call, it cannot have anything to do with race, religion, or sex. That anyone and everyone is capable of doing certain things, and I can't judge them. And so you can't go in there with a preconceived. And so anyone's lifestyles, it's not up for me to do that. So I don't. Um, catatonic. Yeah, and if he and that is something that they will look at. If he put himself on Craigslist, that is a risk factor, and they'll look at that. And from that Craigslist, what type of contacts were made, what numbers were available, and they'll be looking at all that information. Yeah, y'all be careful on some of that stuff because we most certainly don't want anything to be flagged, and we don't want you thrown out either. We won't allow that. You know, each their own. And if anyone gets unruly mods, awesome. Won't hear no complaints from me. So everybody mind your manners and be respectful. Um, and I know there's some strong stuff out there. People have beliefs, honor those, but everyone, like I said, just play nice. Um, let's see here. Triple S. Someone told me that one of the investigators was told by SLED that all of the Murdoch phones were out of the area, out of state, when Stephen was 86th. Um, I think they were planning a trip to be out of state. And I think there was a picture made in Florida later. Uh, and Andrea says, uh, Mr. Steve, when did it come out that Buster had a relationship with him or whatever was said? Was it before or after Stephen was murdered? In small towns, I'm sure that if that was there, then it was known within a certain group, and law enforcement would be able to go back to um, not only Buster's friends, but to the relationships that Steve had, and see where and check with them because everyone has a circle of friends, and they know within that circle of friends what's going on, and um, those rumors will be there and they will be remembered all the way through his. He's only 19, so he young man coming through, just starting life, and so he still has a lot of high school friends and college friends, and within those circle of friends, there's a lot of information. Um, Kayla Revel says you really need to come down to view this area in South Carolina. It's hard to explain just how rural the area is where Stephen was found. You have to view it for yourself to understand. Kayla, are you from there? If so, or if you know people in that area, absolutely send me an email, steve@truecrimeweb.com, if you know anyone there. Oh, man. Chaos. It appears that you are correct in your analysis. SLED is a mess. And they're going to have to most certainly prove themselves, unfortunately. Um, did they determine what was wrong with Stevens' car? I don't know. Uh, I don't know what mechanic said, or when they sent it to the mechanic, would it run? I saw where his sister had to go and assist him the previous day getting the car cranked. That the battery cables were loose or something, and it had died. Is that something that had occurred again, or they weren't loose? I don't know. Yeah, that is a tiny flashlight. And it was, I've got to put batteries in it, but it was extremely bright, but they only last, 20, 30 minutes. Not like those big, you get almost 45 minutes or an hour out of those big ones. Steve, do you think that the Murdochs are involved or because of something else? Um, that is one of the avenues that law enforcement would look at. Absolutely. But we also have to look at what type of relationship he was. Who is his current um, 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 boyfriends or whatever relationship, girlfriends, um, and what was his relationship? And was there any jealousy involved? Was there some type of jilted former lover or relationship? Was there any type of stalking? And all of that will come out of the victimology. We don't really know right now where that stands. And I'm sure within the community they do. And because the mother says that he was excited because he was in a relationship and with a prominent individual and was about to take a trip. Well, how long was that relationship with that prominent individual, and who was former that he walked away from to enter this relationship with this prominent one? And as we've often seen in some of those instances, that the formers don't want to let go, and that can be a reason. And one of the things that law enforcement would look at is that one of those type of revenge or jilted romance, lost romance type of revenge homicide. And if so, um, you know, it's just part of what they will have to look at and evaluate. Oh, Pigeon Max says, still have glass in my head from 25 years ago. Dang, that was, whatever window or whatever hit you got you. Tanya says that News Nation just put out an interview with a former FBI agent about the case. Hadn't seen it yet. I will. Um, Kayla says, I looked up laws here in South Carolina. There are no burial requirements here. Uh oh. I don't know what the family would. Um, and Triple S says that we use linen cloth in lieu of a casket. Absolutely. That's one of the things. And Tanya, you're absolutely right. No glass and road, shoes on but loosely tied, no bodily injuries, according to his mother, other than head injuries. There's more. Absolutely. And um, like I said, I don't think I ever worked a pedestrian being struck by a vehicle that there wasn't at least one shoe knocked off. And they weren't, and when they hit, they don't go to the center of the road. Although it could be possible if you're walking in the center of the road, but I don't think you would stay in the center of the road because I've seen them deflected quite a bit off the. If there's any type of area to the sides, they usually hit that way. Let's see what I'm trying to get caught back up here again. Trying to keep up. I'm back down to that 10 minutes behind again, so I may run through some stuff. Um, and says, Mr. Steve, it was interesting to read that SLED or somebody said that they expect that now that Alex is out of the picture, some people may speak up that were afraid to do so before this. Thoughts? I hope that's not the case. That someone, anyone in the community that has that much power, um, and because that is a dangerous environment, and if that is the case, shame on law enforcement. Nobody likes bullies. JJ says, heading to bed. I'm glad you stayed up with me. I hope I didn't put you to sleep. Oh, man. Kathy, I heard Stephen may have been seeing an older man. Don't know if it was rumor or not. It may have been Buster, but I believe the Murdochs have some critical information. I saw some pictures of a older individual today that supposed to have some type of knowledge or relationship with him. Supposed to have been a friend. Um, Kowalski, Steve, what are your thoughts on body language and how much does that help you in your investigation? In interviews, sometimes, and it's like everything, you you and that's one thing that predators are real good at, understand body language, that they can look into a crowd of people and see which individuals are self-assured and which ones are meek and which one are the potential that will uh, that if you tell them to do something rather than fight, they'll do it. Some people have those personalities and some people have that ability to read that. And but you can do the same thing in these interviews. That there's certain body postures that people take defensive, and you can see their facial and might see their lip quivering, and be able to read and tell how far you can push this individual. And it's not always that it's the big bad officer that can get information. Sometimes it's that uh, 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 lovely female officer uh, or motherly figure officer, that some criminals, they just have a soft spot that if anything reminds them of either uh, their mother or something, that they will absolutely crumble when mother doesn't approve. And I've seen it. Absolutely amazing. When uh, and you're in there and you recognize that um, you're talking to them in a tone or voice, and then the other officer, uh, uh, female or male otherwise, says something, and they peek around and they say, "Yes, ma'am." Then I shut up. We're going to the one that is saying, "Yes, ma'am," because there's a lot of things to be said about reading people's manners and what uh, uh, is instilled in their uh, psychological profile. They have no idea. Hey, Jeff F., good to see you. Jeff F., late again. No, you're not late. I've heard that the phone and the keys were on him, but the billfold was in the car. I know the billfold was in the car. I've got a picture of the billfold in the car. Now I've got pictures of the front seat, back floorboard, front seat, and maybe a steering column. And I don't know about the keys yet. I hadn't went through all that, but I did see where the billfold is on the passenger side beside the seat. The other stuff I haven't looked at yet, but I will. And if he was out of gas, it makes absolutely no sense that he didn't call. If there was no signal there, he could have walked with the phone until he got signal. And I found out where he lives at today. And it's about 5 miles, um, which if he's skittish, would he have used the phone? Would he have called the wrecker? Would he have called 911? Um, and did he call 911? I'm still unclear of why in the reports it says between 1 and 4. I haven't found out yet why that number, why the 1 a.m. is significant. Uh, was there contact made at 1 a.m. with somebody? Um, and what is that information? And it may be common knowledge. I just don't know what it is yet. I hadn't seen it or I hadn't got that information yet. But I'm real curious about that 1 o'clock. Vicky Fox, Steve, since this happened so long ago, would cell phone data still be available? Hopefully. I don't know, but hopefully it will be. Get caught back up. I get so far behind. I don't know how some of those people are able to do all this stuff so quick. Mr. Steve, do you have to carry lots of spare batteries in your squad car for the Maglite? No. Um, I had extras, and all the cars did, for the fact that um, uh, we carried them, especially when you work night shifts for other officers too, because you never knew when you was going to be on call and it might extend out. And there's nothing cheap about back then. Like I said, we owned all our equipment. We had to buy our own firearms, our own vest, everything. Uh, the only even our own leather gear, own handcuffs, and so the only thing they supplied us was pants and a shirt and a badge. Yeah, so you get caught up. Um, yes, Jill. I did see this, and I have it in. It'll be in one of our shows. I just don't know which show I'm going to do next. I don't know if I'm going to do the motives and victimologies and manner of death stuff, or if I'm going to do the murder. I'll probably just go ahead because everyone to just go ahead and get the Murdoch out of the way of the other. I'll probably do the Murdoch links first. Um, uh, might do that for tonight. I just have to check. They say it's a hit and run, and like I said, I don't understand what a hit and run in South Carolina is. Here, it would have been regardless. It's still a homicide, but um, but could it be a homicide, or could it be something with a hit and run that they would have said that was it such as someone hit something and thought it was a deer and just drove away, um, and sometimes they do that for um, trying to get people to turn themselves in. Let's see here. Hope I don't miss too much. Not only him being in the middle of the road, the mild road rash or scrapes he had, and they said bruises or contusions, and it's a little bit different. Pavement. There's all different types of, and pavement. You have all different types of particles and everything, and they didn't describe some of those things as that. But and his clothes, if you fall on pavement, usually there's a lot of transfer. If you get hit by a car, paint. I mean, there's burns. Everything from, um, you know, even the car itself. You can get those rub burns on your skin, and also you can have transfer of different types of evidence onto your clothing. It goes both ways. Yeah, I don't know, Jeff, on that. When they say about getting hit by a semi truck mirror, those things are pretty high. I mean, I don't know. There's all different types of vehicles out there, and I can imagine that. Um, you even have those big dually trucks that have those extended mirrors out, but they would have seen the glass if he got hit by a mirror. And Kat, you're right. The highway patrol knew it was not an auto and seam stage, no debris on road. And some of the reports I read on that is absolutely that they went and confronted the pathologist, and it was absolutely a strange situation. Patty Lemon, it's good to see you. Yeah, I don't. Juicy, I agree with you. I don't think he was struck by a car either. Yeah, he used that badge at the boat also. Yeah, I've got to watch that Murdoch. Oh, Jill, how you blew that, Jill. Thank you for the $5 super sticker. Appreciate the support. And get caught back up again, guys. I'm getting there. I'm only 4 minutes behind. Uh, yeah, I've got to study a little bit on the positioning of his body. I saw those images, and I've got to look at that and see what that means. Seven and a quarter inch wound on Stephen's head is a huge wound. Yes, it's yeah, my hand I think is around 7.5, 8 inches. So yeah, that would that's a pretty good size. I mean, it's all the way wraps around the side of your head, um, and so yeah, it is something that would be huge. And with a interview and question the first pathologist, if she's still employed by the state, absolutely, and if not, of course, how willing would she be able, or will she, and will they bring her into a grand jury? Yes, I hope the Maid case will be looked at again. Tanya, $10, go get your wife a burger. That's funny. Oh me. Oh yeah, she she does absolutely love hamburgers. Gosh, her and my grandson. What do you want? Cheeseburger. And I'll tell you now, if you ever see Mrs. Steve, she's gonna have pickle, mustard, and ketchup only, and cheese on a burger. That's it. She's very simple on her burgers. Thank you, Fuza. Yes, yes, you can also donate through the True Crime Web Foundation on the website, truecrimeweb.com. And it has, for anyone that does that, it has the tax benefits on it also because it's a nonprofit. Thank you. I know that in some of the reports, the coroner or deputy coroner that was on the scene that night said that we have a, a homicide. And from some of the reports, it indicates like there was a entry wound. And what was that entry? And I don't know. Will we ever know? Hopefully, yes, we'll know because if there is an entry, the skull will be there, and they'll be able to analyze it and see if it. Because, like I say, when you have a head injury, all those blood vessels and everything. I mean, it's absolutely a bloody mess. Uh, just on a simple, um, laceration to your head. Yeah, 4 inches the size of a baseball, 7.5 could be caused by a gun. Absolutely. There's so many different ways. Um, actually, I saw when you said that 7.5 inches could be caused by a gunshot. Um, my sniper team, I just rotated off a rifle when my partner took um, a bad guy off a hostage with a 308, and it created at least a 7.5 inch injury, and the guy survived it. Um, um, Absolutely amazing. I'll tell that story one of these days. Uh, do we know Kowalski says, do we know what side of the head had the gash in it? Might point to a driver's side hit or a right-handed shot to the head while the killer. Um, I don't even know if a vehicle was involved in it at all other than transportation. Um, and because where he's found doesn't mean that's where it happened. Could it have been where it happened? Yes, but does it mean it happened there? No. That could simply be where the body was transported to and dumped, and for whatever reason. And so, and same with the vehicle. What was staged and what was not staged. Where the body is positioned, separation from the car, and hopefully the investigation will tell them that. Um, yeah, I seen where he'd been watching himself on TV, and also I've been going to church and things. And will he call Banfield? I hope. See, am I getting caught up? Yeah, I'm not too far behind now. I'm getting caught up, guys. And it's also bizarre to me. This is Kayla that says that the gas cap was hanging off the car. This seems really strange. Letting the gas cap hang off the car seems not believable. And I looked it up. Um, you know, I thought, well, maybe it's something they might teach in driver's ed or something to show that your car's broke down, um, or or something. And I did a research on, or I researched it on the internet, and I wasn't able to find anything that said that's what you do, because I was interested in that because I never had heard of that when I was growing up. Actually, on the old vehicles we had, um, you had to be careful that when you removed your gas cap, that you didn't leave it sitting on the top of the trunk when you closed the lid and drove off, or you'd be, without a gas cap. Because back then at the service stations, they sold extra gas caps. I, other than a parts store, is the only place you can find an extra gas cap anymore now. But because that is a strange thing. So could it have been shot? Still that possibility that it could be a grazing wound. I saw it happen, you know, to a bank robber. Had a hostage. I saw it. Now there was a lot of bone loss too, but he survived it. Oh gosh, yeah, Dave, you do that. Send Mrs. Steve a pet spider. Yeah, you do that. I know what state you live. Thinking he was put in the road so he could be found. And was there a reason they wanted him found in that way? And that's why you would stage, to make it seem like it's something else. And were they able to make it look like it's something else? It appears so, because it was ruled a traffic accident for a long time. 8 years later, it's now a homicide. Um, Cat in a hat. I sometimes catch and release my spiders. Others get to stay if they are not too large. Okay, Cat. I don't know where you live, but oh me. Uh, 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 Juicy B. Steve, have you spoken with sister, mother, and friends? No, I have not, and I I've got to decide if I go over there. Now, if they contact me, I'll give them my 2 cents. Uh, the likelihood of them contacting me is very, very low. They have professional, they have attorneys, they have $100,000 to go out there and hire people of that have that are, you know, this is their job, this is what they do, and most certainly, hopefully, they do find the right individuals. But if they want my 2 cents, I'll be glad to give it to them. Yeah, Kayla, you don't take gas caps off for any reason. I know it now. And this is a good point. Someone may have told him they had some gas for him. He went to open it when he got was blitzed. That's a good point. Valid. And then catatonic. If it wasn't premeditated, then Stephen was really in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that does occur. And that's what they'll have to look at from his victimology. Was he just going to walk home 5 miles, middle of the night, not wake anybody up? It's possible. But if that vehicle, because the vehicle is pointing from what I've seen and is pointing in the right direction. But where was he coming from? And of course, it's easy to speculate towards a certain family that if you go up the few miles and make a right, it takes you to a certain house. And so, um, and I can see where people can draw that conclusion, and a lot of people will, regardless of if it's true or not. And the siphoning the gas, yes. And did they check for that? Don't know. And where is that vehicle now? Is it still within the family? Is it in storage? Has it been sold? And so they'll be looking at a lot of that. Um, I know his billfold was found in his car. I don't know about his phone. I've heard it both ways, and I hadn't looked into there's the vehicle is in disarray, front seat, back floorboard. Um, and so I don't know what's all in there, but I've got the photos of it, so I'll try to ID what I can. Thomas Moore, this is Grumpy Cat. South Carolina Highway Patrol was the one who responded to Smith's body. He said it was clear to him that Smith was a result of a homicide. I saw where there was a first responder. And Stephanie says, I think it was part of the staging that, as far as the gas cap being off. Very possible. When I get out there, I'm going to probably walk it and just to see what houses. I know I'm going to drive it during that time period between 1 and 4 if I get over there because I want to see. I don't know what new development has happened. I don't know how many new homes are there, but I do want to drive that area and see it at that time frame and see who's up, who's asleep, and just see what it looks like. I've also got to look up the lunar records. Um, I know I hadn't looked it up yet to see the weather conditions and the lunar records. Was it a bright full moon or was there no moon? And what were the lighting conditions for that time period? And this is also a possibility that they, if it is staging, if both of them are staged, absolutely. Now, were the vehicle, and that's something else we have to look at. What are the odds of running out of gas or breaking down at one of the largest pullover parking spots on that road? And the only one that I could see where there's extra pavement over to the side. And because that's one of the things when I looked at it and I was looking at that roadway that, you know, that's a main turnaround. I know there's a gate and a road there, but it's one of the widest spot that has additional pavement over to the side. Is that a meeting place or was that where someone went and with him put it over there where they could both be off the side of the road at the same time? But normally when you run out of gas or your car breaks down, you're normally not at the widest spot and easiest area of where we could park a vehicle. Normally, in the times I break down, it's in the busiest intersection or on the side of the road in the most dangerous spot that can happen. That's not the case on this. So that's just something that you have to that they're going to have to look at and evaluate. And anyone can go and look at that picture, and I have it. And that's, when I saw that, I said, well, if you're going to run out of gas or break down, this is the spot to do it for the fact it's the widest spot in the road. On a 2-lane road, and you find the one place to run out of gas on. Let's see here. What else we got going on here? Let's see. And now they could be, and if they still have the vehicle and they process it, there can be a lot of reasons innocent of why someone's DNA could be in that vehicle, why their fingerprints could be there. It could be explained. And so I don't know what part of that, but under the hood, if there's anything that occurred under that hood or to that gas cap, that is stuff that is critical. If there's a touch DNA on the gas cap or something under the hood that was messed with, then if you get any type of DNA off of that, then that might be something that would pay dividends if investigators could find something like that. Yeah, speaking to his sisters about that special friend and everything, and like I said, could it have been another jilted uh, former friend? Can they get DNA if cars been preserved this long? Depends on what environment and what area of the vehicle they're looking at, and but it's possible. Oh, okay. I think I got caught up, guys. Let's see. We've been here an hour and 18 minutes. We got a few more minutes, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see if I got everything covered. Let's see. Manner of death, death. Uh, the pathologist from back then would have that, and then if they find any new information, um, they doing that victimology is going to be huge. And something else that they're going to have to do, and even now, if they still have those clothing articles, um, and from his pants to his shirt to his shoes, and what DNA is on them, is there any type of transfer, hair, fiber? What will it tell them? And they will analyze it now under probably better technology, absolutely better technology than they had 8 years ago. And so that may lead them down a path that will result in something. And of course, if your DNA is on a shirt, such as if you were you either loading or unloading an individual with injuries, then that can tell people a lot of stuff about you. Okay, Ann has already looked up last quarter, so kind of dark. Yeah, um, yeah, and I don't know what the weather was like. I don't know if it was overcast or otherwise. But even on the darkest of nights, once your eyes adjust, and I don't know how he enjoyed the nightlife as far as being out. Did he like to camp? People that like to camp are not anywhere as skittish of the dark as people that don't like to camp. And so I don't know what his hobbies and habits were. Oh yeah, if he told his sister, wouldn't she speak up? And it is strange that he kept the name away from his sister, or does she know? She may know. I don't know. Um, um, I hope this is not the case. Why did investigators give mom his clothes and not keep them as secure evidence? I hope that's not the case. And if it is the case, hopefully she didn't wash them and she secured them. But if that is the case, that is not good. Yeah, if they didn't consider it evidence, I hope that's not the case. I hadn't heard that their clothes were released to her. Like I said, I'm just getting into all this stuff, and there's a lot of stuff to catch up on out there. All righty. Yeah, Tanya, I think she did have the phone, and I think the FBI has it, but I don't know if they were ever able to break into it or not. Yeah, I saw where they say he was shy in private. Um, Pigeon Mac, my Wi-Fi failed by him back. Um, I'm, I'm, I take it that tonight my string was pretty um, level and adequate, and I didn't cut out too much. I don't think. Hopefully not. It sounds like the PD really let this family down. Law enforcement, when you had the troopers, which were handling it as far as a traffic accident, um, and they were arguing with the pathologist that this isn't what it is, there had to be a disconnect because surely not only the pathologist, surely they went to someone with SLED or their command staff, chain of command on both, and spoke of it. And what was that? Why did it not ever proceed? And I hope people have to answer for that. All righty, guys. Well, we're getting here. It's been here almost an hour and 22 minutes right now. I thank everybody for being here tonight. And tonight, like I said, I'll probably do the Murdoch part of it. Um, and there's a lot of information out there and a lot of rumor on it. And I understand why. Like I said, the vehicle ain't that far, and it's pointing in the right direction from coming from there. Um, and but we'll just have to look at it and see where it goes. And but it is an interesting case, and I hope, like I said, once again, if any of you out there know anyone that lives in that part of the country, absolutely send me an email, steve@truecrimeweb.com, and I will get with you and hopefully make some arrangements to come over there in a couple weeks. And but y'all stay safe out there, and I'll see y'all in a few hours later tonight around 8 o'clock. And be careful.